Hey everybody! In this video we're going to learn how to solve and graph linear inequalities in just one variable. Alright, so whenever we read our inequalities, we always want to read our graphs from left to right, not right to left. The reason why is because we can get confused based on our symbols that we're going to learn about, and we'll get everything mixed up with shading and what kind of circle we're going to have, so always read it from left to right. So the first inequality sign, we have like an arrow pointing to the left, and because there's no line underneath, that means that we don't include that restriction that we find in our solution. So this would be, we would have on a number line an open circle, and this is read as is less than. So when you shade your inequality, a trick that I like to think about is because it's pointing to the left, is less than, I'm going to shade to the left. Second inequality sign, we are pointing to the right, so you can probably guess what phrase it's going to be, and because we don't have a line underneath, we have a open circle, and it is greater than. So because it's pointing to the right, we're going to shade to the right for that inequality. The next two have that line underneath. So because we have that line underneath, we are actually going to include the value that we find in our solution or that actual restriction that we want. Like we're including that answer. So we're going to have a closed circle on our restriction, which means that we fill in our circle. And this is read as is less than or equal to whatever value that we're talking about. And we're going to shade just like before because it's pointing to the left, to the left. And finally, we're going to have another closed circle for this symbol right here. And this is called is greater than or equal to. And we are going to shade to the right. So in example 1, we're going to write and graph an inequality. Your school wants to collect at least 5,000 pounds of food for a food drive. We have to write and graph our inequality. So the first thing that we want to do is define our variables. So we want to say that our x, some random number or random letter, is going to represent the pounds of food that we collect. Okay, so if the school wants to collect at least 5,000 pounds of food, think about it. Would we like to collect 2,000 pounds of food? No. So 2,000 is less than 5,000. Do we want to collect 4,000 pounds of food? No, because our school wants to collect at least 5,000. So we would probably be happy with 5,000. Would we be happy with 10,000 pounds of food? Absolutely. So our inequality that we'd write based on the situation, if we want to collect at least 5,000 pounds of food, well, our x is going to be greater than or equal to 5,000 pounds of food. Because that means that our solutions can be 5,000 or anything that's bigger than 5,000. So how this looks like on our graph is that if we want to be happy with 5,000 pounds of food, we want to put a closed circle on 5,000, and because we are pointing to the right, or we can think about it as anything that's bigger than 5,000, including 5,000, that's the direction we shade. So whenever you graph your inequalities in just one variable, this shaded region means that anything that's shaded is considered an answer to our inequality. So if I had 6,000 pounds of food, I'd be happy. 7,000, 7,500, 8,000, you guys get the picture. So anything to the right of 5,000, including 5,000, is our solution. Example 2, we're going to actually solve our inequality and then graph it. So our inequality is 2.5 is greater than n minus 3.5. So we're going to solve this just like a regular equation. So we're going to imagine that the inequality sign is actually an equal sign and solve for our variable from there. So the first thing I want to do is, the idea is to get the variable by itself. So in order for us to eliminate that negative 3.5 and move it to the right side, or left side, excuse me, we have to use the inverse operation of subtraction. And we're going to add 3.5 to both sides. That'll zero out the right, and then we are left with an n, a greater than symbol, and 6. Now we always read our inequalities from left to right. I highly suggest that when you are solving an inequality and you realize that your variable is on the right, you are going to have to switch our inequality around. But the thing is, you have to be very, very careful. So I'm going to write my n because I want it on the left side of my inequality. And now pay attention to the inequality sign. It is clearly pointing to the n. So when you rewrite your inequality sign and when you switch it around, observe that what direction the inequality sign is facing. We have the greater than symbol pointing to the n. So then our new inequality, which is the same thing, will also point to the n. And then you write down your value. So then this inequality being read from left to right is n is less than 6. So every value that's less than 6, not including 6, is considered our solution. So because we're not including 6, we're going to have an open circle on the value of 6 on our number line, and we're going to shade every little value to the left of 6. So if you look at it, we have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and that arrowhead pointing to infinity, which is negative, negative infinity, would be our solution.